And so obviously Ethiopia itself, the anciency and the history, if we bring it to the modern day, where obviously His Imperial Majesty EmperorHaileSelassieI, King of Kings, Negus Negast, is the one shining the light to Ethiopia, is the reason, let's say, that all of I and I have sight up Ethiopia through His Imperial Majesty. So I guess a good topic to touch upon would be the teachings of His Majesty, because he's one of the most published world leaders. He left so many books and speeches and publications for I and I to study, for Ethiopian people to study. He translated them into Arabic, French, English, so these are things he left for I and I, the people of the world, to study. So there's a reason why he left that, because most world leaders, maybe they might, when they retire, they might publish an autobiography as a commercial thing, but His Majesty actually wrote 2 volumes. There's rumors of a 3rd volume that's never been found, but His Majesty gave us his testimony of his life. He gave us his testimony of his teachings or his time at that time. So what would be the importance for ones and ones today that are seeking the teachings of His Majesty, or seeking to get to know more about the depths and the roots and the liberty of Rastafari, implementing and acknowledging and studying the teachings of His Majesty in our daily lives? Yeah, can put it like.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, who is His Imperial Majesty? Without that, we don't grasp nothing about his teaching. You might read his teaching, but if you don't have the right key to open the door, you might just remain on a superficial level, which is great, it is okay. I mean, many people relate to His Majesty on a superficial level, and that is better than nothing. That is something that we give thanks for. But I know Rastafari now is a generation that sight His face. I know Rastafari is the generation that is standing on an inch between 2 eras, the pre-Messiah and the after-Messiah. So this time that we are living in, they are messianic times. So who is Imperial Majesty? His Imperial Majesty is the Messiah returned in his second coming. Iyesus Krystos, some call him Jesus Christ. He was supposed to return, and he did return with the new name of Haile Selassie I, Haile Selassie. So who is the Messiah? The Messiah is ultimately a teacher.
Yeah.
He's a teacher that will teach you how to live as mankind, as human race, in the new era of humanity. The Messiah is the ultimate master of this new way of living. So the Messianic time is not the time of perfection, like many other religious family think. So the Messianic time is not the time where death is gone, money is gone, job is gone, and we live heavenly just as angels. No, very, very different. In order to understand, we need to go back to the original teachings of the Old Testament and all the Messianic tradition, the Messianic philosophy, because it's not Rasta the first people talking about the Messiah. We have thousands of years of tradition, and we cannot just ignore them. There is the Jewish tradition, there is the Christian tradition, the Orthodox Christian tradition. So it's not that we just arrived here and invented the concept of the Messianic King. So who is this Messianic King? According to this ongoing tradition, from Abraham, I should say, even before Noah, even before Adam. Who is this tradition? Who is this king according to this tradition? Is a savior? Yes, but not like somebody likes to think. The savior arrives, and from night to day you are saved and redeemed, and you are clean of your sins and washed of your faults. And it's a different concept. It's a little bit more articulated than that. So let me explain. Before the Messiah arrives, the earth is in a deep turmoil. Yeah, it's like the ultimate confusion, the ultimate state of confusion. When the Messiah arrives, through his teachings, he will show a new way to address the world and the confusion, and to transform that confusion into something godly. So the Bible is not a book of prayer. The Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, Revelation, is a book that teaches you how to transform this earthly realm into a divine realm. So the Bible is the book about transformation, it's the ultimate book of transformation. The Bible is the bestseller, the most sold book in the world. Yeah? So the Bible is the ultimate instruction on how to bring heaven on earth and manifest the heavenly essence of this planet Earth. That's why the Bible teaches you how to make your business, how to sell your products at the market, how to deal with your wife, how to deal with your king. The Bible teaches you very, very human things, because the objective is not for us to go to heaven, but for us to bring heaven down on earth. So where does His Majesty fit into this picture? His Majesty is the ultimate teacher that will teach mankind how to install this process in its ultimate manifestation. In other words, the teaching of His Majesty, since that you're asking, the teachings of His Majesty is nothing else than what happened at Mount Sinai, the Ten Commandments, the law of Moses, and the teaching of Iyesus Krystos, but compiled for the new era, for the new generation, for the new world. In other words, again, maybe in simple terms, the teachings of His Majesty, they are exactly the reproduction of what happened on Mount Sinai, yeah, but fit for this new generation. So His Majesty is saying, God is saying, all right, you want to bring me, God, on this planet Earth? These are the instructions. On Mount Sinai, God told us, okay, don't kill, don't steal your brother's wife, don't add this and that. His Majesty is telling us, you want to bring God on earth? Alright, so implement collective security. So make sure that the stronger nation do not afflict and do not invade the weaker nations, international morality, and so forth. So His Majesty's teaching are the ultimate testament for this time on how to bring the Almighty here on earth and enjoy the rest of our unlimited time on planet Earth, living in a good and godly manner. Haile
Selassie. Yes, I give thanks. Very true. And I love the way that I articulate that explanation for the people to understand, because these are very sensitive topics that we're talking about in this time. A lot of people probably don't realize, the significance of, let's just say, His Imperial Majesty himself, these things that we've just talked about.
So, one of the most frequently asked question is, but if His Majesty is the Messiah and if He is the ultimate teacher, so why are things not getting better? So why is this world full of confusion and things like that? Yeah. So it's very easy, because this is how it's meant to be. Yeah. You cannot change things from night to day. The Messianic time is a changing time, is a time of transformation, is a process, is not the ultimate goal. Yeah, so this is very important. That is where Rastafari is different from, for example, other school of thought, other Christian churches, Christian families. The coming of the Messiah is not the ultimate, the final stage, but is the transformation time that will bring to that final stage. Yeah, that is what we call the Armageddon. That's why we learn from tradition that His Majesty, with his coming, inaugurates the Armageddon, which is the battle between good and evil. So how is that possible? Because the battle between good and evil is not only a physical battle, but is a process where the good becomes always more visible and always more predominant on the evil, but the evil becomes more visible. And that is why in this time and age we are seeing so many bad things happen. That is why the good has not ultimately won over the evil, because it is not meant to be. The process of revelation, the messianic time, is a time in which the evil becomes more evident. 40, 50, 60 years ago the evil was less evident. Yeah? So with the coming of Majesty, Majesty put the blueprint of what is good. And if you follow that blueprint, not only you are good, but you become good, the ultimate good. Automatically, who does not conform to that blueprint becomes more evidently evil. So we should not expect that because a Majesty arrived, now everything is immediately heavenly and paradisiac. Understand? So that is something that Haile Rastafari should be really smart from that. Because many people get like, well, but alright Rasta, but if you talk like that, why then things keep getting worse? Things are not getting worse, things are only revealing, and they are getting better.
Yes, sir.
Haile,
yes, sir, true. It's the stages, like, for I, the way I interpret it, it's the stages of the prophecy, because, as you say, like, when we read Revelation deeply, like, for example, you mentioned that we are the generation that has seen His Majesty's face, right? So, as you say, it's not overnight. As that I say, it's not that His Majesty will come and boom, everything will be fixed. It's putting into process this thing, because this idea of Judgment Day, as that I say in many forms of Christianity, the general idea is that, Christ will come and bam, 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 and defeat that evil, like a kind of, even like a movie kind of thing, and suddenly there will be good on earth. But if we read the prophecy correctly, we understand that that's not actually the reality of what it says, and everything is step by step. It might take 100 years, it might take 1,000 years for this judgment to unfold, or for this balance to come. And so for ayahs that I say, His Majesty coming is like the kicking off of all these world events that since His Majesty's time have started happening. The nations are rising up against each other. We have war, we have all these things. As the I say, things are being revealed. The evil things that used to happen in the dark, people are no longer hiding. So all of these things show us, Fa'inai, what time it is. Yes, so I would say that, just to encourage ones when reading and studying things like Revelation, to read between the lines as well, because there's a lot being said. It's not always just what's being said physically, but remember the Bible, and especially Revelation is talking about a vision. So even me, I've had many arguments with many of my brothers of the Christian faith who want to argue that Christ is going to come out the sky and bam, shoot some lasers, because that's what it says. But let's not forget, that's a vision that John was having. So a vision normally summarizes things for us.
Well, the next time somebody tells you, so why then? Why has not His Majesty arrived and started to throw laser beams and things like that? And next time they ask you, and the next time they tell you that the coming of Christ should have been like a moment of ultimate and immediate defeat of evil from night to day, well, then you should tell them, you should ask them, why didn't happen before? In other words, if the coming of Christ was meant to be just like an almost Hollywood style event that all of a sudden would defeat all the evil and transform all the evil and eliminate it pain and death and suffering, all of a sudden, you should tell them why then did not happen before. Because if it was supposed to be like that, then why God did not send His own Christ maybe 300 years ago? And that would have avoided all heap of suffering and all heap of tribulation on earth. I mean, that is mean. If the ultimate goal is that Christ will descend from the sky and transform everything almost as a magic, why didn't He do it before? Why did the Almighty left us struggling with our own hands and just really fighting our way off into this tribulation? I'm not sure they will know how to answer. Because the answer is that the coming of Christ is not a magician event. Christ is not a magician. The ultimate redemption, the ultimate salvation is not an act of a magician, but is Christ collaborating, uniting with mankind and following a blueprint. That is the way of salvation. In other words, the Almighty does not want to send somebody to save us. The Almighty wants us to learn how to save us. That's why He sent us the Christ, the kingly teacher, the Davidic ruler, as the ultimate teacher. So not a magician, but a very practical person. So that's why many people say, why His Majesty is considered Christ is not even a priest? Well, because if you read the Bible tells you that when His Majesty's return will not be a priest, when Christ's return will not be a priest, not of any priestly order, but will be a ruler. Because the ruler, if you think about it, is the one that can really affect positively a huge number of people. A priest can affect 12 people, 60 people, a congregation, but a ruler can affect countries and countries, nations, continents. That is exactly what His Majesty did. The ancient prophecies say that when the Christ will return, He will be mainstream. Understand? So to be mainstream, you must be somebody that is really important, is a big figure, a big person, not a teacher, not a priest. Haile
Selassie I. Yes, it would be a great place to finish, but I'm going to ask one more question just following on from that to Shiloh, because mentioning the idea that I think it's a very important thing to differentiate the idea of somebody coming to save us or somebody coming to show us how to save ourselves and therefore inspire others to also save themselves. So let's say, like, for the youths of today all around the world, our generation and this upcoming generation, we can say we are still being and we have been heavily attacked by Babylon, by the system, through the means of like media, the Hollywoods, the music, the movies, and all of these things, to try and always draw us away from seeking spiritual paths, seeking the Most High, seeking the Christ within ourselves, seeking the knowledge of how to save ourselves. And there's been a great operation taken place in the world to take the youths away from these things. So maybe, how could I word it? I could say, what advice or what could I share about that for the youths, how to avoid and to stay clear of these many distractions, and to be able to focus in this time on becoming our higher selves, our highest selves, and reaching our highest ability, both physically, spiritually. Yes, sir.
Well, I would say, first of all, we need to discover who we really are. So we need to take time in our life in order to read our life and see really what we are lacking. So when people come to I and say, how can I become a Rasta? I don't tell them you should believe in His Majesty or you should grow your locks. I tell them you should read through your life and see what is missing before that. So there are different ways to inspire people. So one way is to bring them a teaching. Imagine you have a field and you have to cultivate, you have to start farming the field, but you're lacking water, right? So there are two ways in which you can bring water. So one way is to draw a pipe, connect a pipe to a source, yeah, and you can bring water to your field from a distant source, right? And then you will be happy because you have water, you can grow your veg, your crops, everybody can eat, and that's cool, that's great. But what happens is that if somebody stops the source, you're done, you're finished, you are in serious problems. There is another way to bring in water to your field, and instead of going and looking somewhere else, you start digging and getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So the first way is that you give people the teaching and you tell them, okay, this is what you need to learn and conform to in order to be a different person. But really what I prefer is to inspire the people to go deeper and deeper and find their own water instead of having to go and find water somewhere else. And why I'm saying this? Because when you find your own fountain of life within, that will never expire, never extinguish, so you will never be short of water. And water here represents the spiritual life, the spiritual essence, that I, flowing within I. So what I would say to the youth, first of all, look into your life. And remember Marley say, are you satisfied with the life you live in? So look at yourself and ask yourself at the end of the day, have I done something inspiring today? And after that, ask yourself, why am I here? Why am I here? Because the pictures, the movies, the Hollywood, the social media, they can give you a nice time, but are they able to answer this question, why am I here? Well, we are here because we have a mission, and we are the only ones that can do this mission. This mission is to do something really, really nice with our life. So look around yourself, who's sitting at your table, who's sleeping in your house. Those are the ones that you should first help, and then you can extend your mission around. So it's okay to look to watch the movie, it's okay to listen to the music, it's okay, because every man have his own way to reach a state of godliness. But while you watch the movie, while you go to the party, while you choose your nice outfit, ask yourself, why am I here? And how can I make this world better? From you do that, then it's up to the answer of the Almighty. Everything then is commentary, yeah? But ask yourself, what can I do to make this world a better place? Haile
Selassie, yes, I give thanks and praise, family. We're here live and direct, Addis Ababa, February 2025. Is there any last thing that I would like to share? We could reason, there's a whole heap of things we could reason upon, but we're gonna seal it up for now. Is there anything that I would like to share lastly for the people? And Jah willing, we might see if we can get to talk to Alborosie himself about his experience in Ethiopia. But how did the band, how did they all find this few days trip? And yeah, Rastafari.
What I would say is, look for the simple things in life. Yeah, take time for spirituality, take time for Zion. Every day, take time. Say a little prayer, read a psalm, memorize a psalm, and while you're out on the road, just repeat your psalm. And enjoy the free things in life, because best things are for free. Yeah, so watch the birds, smell nature, yeah, enjoy a conversation with a brother or a sister. When you see somebody happy, share the joy with him. When you see somebody crying, share the pain with him. Just destroy the barriers between me and you. Just become something different, become something bigger. Do not be content with who you are today, knowing that tomorrow you can be greater, bigger. So evolution, improvement, growth and iriness, because as my elders say, who no irie, afi ire himself. So let's all be irie and do the works of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I, especially here in his palace city. Because remember, God was walking through the garden, at the beginning of time. Rastafari.
Give much thanks until we meet again and reason again, possibly at House of Rastafari, Jah willing, yeah? Give thanks and praise Ras Julio. Blessed love.